timeless voices of the eternal church.
In 1990, when the Soviet Union unraveled, Fidel Castro's grip on Cuba weakened as well. No longer could his foreign comrades subsidize his crippled showcase economy. Being point man for communism in the Western Hemisphere was suddenly as conspicuous as standing in a pillory. He needed a way to improve his image at home. Previously, Castro had opposed Christianity not only on ideological grounds, but also because he didn't want to waste any of his regime's valuable resources on building new churches or repairing old ones. But why not loosen the restraints on house churches that weren't expecting to build new buildings? Such benevolent approval should raise the popularity of the aging dictator. And besides, people were already meeting in house churches without permission anyway. But Castro did not know what he unleashed. Bibles, tracts, and children's Bible stories were distributed openly, and the gospel message was being preached with great power by fearless evangelists. Young communists converted to Christ and began tearing up their party membership cards and throwing them in the streets. Soon, the revival among both Protestants and Catholics led to the establishment of over 3,000 new house churches. The Assemblies of God churches in Cuba, which previously claimed only 7,000 followers, experienced some of the most rapid growth until there were nearly 50,000 members, most of them young professionals disillusioned by economic hardship and ideological emptiness, but inspired by the transforming power of God. In the province of Camagüey, 85 new house churches sprang up. Pastor and evangelist Orson Vila led one of the largest, with a congregation of 2,500 people, meeting in shifts in his backyard. Some Cubans were so spiritually hungry that they waited in line for 24 hours for prayer and counseling with Pastor Vila. Many other pastors in Cuba were seeing a similar revival, but because Pastor Vila's ministry grew so large, it drew the attention of Castro's regime as a spiritual threat. Communist officials ordered the closing of 85 of the 101 house churches in that province, Pastor Vila's church among them. But he refused. He had been imprisoned before for preaching the gospel, something he had been doing for 23 years, and he was not about to quit now that God was pouring out His Spirit in revival. On the morning of May 24, 1995, at 5:30 a.m., some 15 police, special brigades, and state security agents surrounded Pastor Vila's home with police vans, patrol cars, and a cargo truck. They arrested him, confiscated all church equipment, and took him to the courthouse. But as he was being interrogated, some 5,000 Christians from all the churches in the city surrounded the building and proclaimed, "Christ lives," followed by choruses such as "Cuba for Christ" and "The walls shall fall." Nevertheless, Pastor Vila's lawyer was not allowed to provide a defense, and according to Amnesty International, he was subsequently sentenced to 18 months for disobedience and for holding illegal meetings. He carried out the first part of his sentence at the Ceramica Roja prison in Camagüey province, and was later moved to Las Falte Penitentiary, also in Camagüey. Word went out around the world concerning his incarceration, and thousands of believers began praying. Amnesty International declared him a prisoner of conscience. His fellow prisoners asked him if his conviction were a punishment from God. "No," he answered. "God loves prisoners and sent me to tell you about Jesus." Soon, many became Christians, and a church was started in prison. On the outside, by September, Pastor Vila's congregation had doubled, meeting in other locations. Finally, Pastor Vila was released on March 2, 1996, having served only half of his sentence. 4 days later, he was preaching again in Camagüey.
Reading from the complete book of Christian heroes, over 200 stories of courageous people who suffered for Jesus, compiled by Dave and Nita Jackson. This is the Eternal Church of Jesus Christ, the record.